So, about Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl.
Alright, fellows and fellowettes, today we will be discussing Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl and its place in this world. You know that, you clicked the video. This is going to be a relatively quick video as there's not much content here to speak of, so I'll give it my best shot. So as far as introductions go, this is an attempt at making a Super Smash Bros. Clone, straight up, using intellectual properties from the popular Viacom service cable channel Nickelodeon. I think things like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are a bit out of place in this game, considering they weren't originally Nickelodeon, and there are notable omissions like Timmy Turner, Jimmy Neutron, and the Timmy Jimmy Power Hour, and those stand out. You can forgive things like Rocket Power and Mr. Meaty not making the cut, but having representation from obscure and forgotten 90s franchises like Real Monsters, and not those other ones, feels weird. Obviously, Blue and Dora weren't going to make the cut, but who knows with DLC these days. So my initial thoughts were good, but the more I played it, the more it feels like a generic Clover Valley brand of platform fighters. I don't fault them for trying, of course. Even the underwhelming amount of characters in the base roster feels forgivable. But when the first Smash game came out for N64, there was nothing to compare it to on the market. No other fighting game ever did anything like that before. But when you're talking about a game coming out in 2021 with the benefit of hindsight and over 20 years and 4 Smash games to compare yourself to, this feels like a disappointment. It's really jank in so many ways. The hitbox and hurtbox of every character and their moves is gigantic and far bigger than the animation. That's only a small part of the issue, and the animations seem to be able to almost be cancelled at will with the amount of time even the longer ones take to play out. Every move seems to come out on frame 1 and finish on frame 3. Why? I can't even appreciate any of the work that goes into any of the animations because it's so quick and just jank looking. Because they play out so quickly though, I don't even know what they're doing or what they're using to actually attack their opponents with. And finally, every character feels exactly the same, sadly, mostly. Gravity affects them the same way, they all have the same jump height and arc, and they all move at the same speed, and there doesn't seem to be archetypes in the game, really, like there is in Smash. So, while a typical Smash Ultimate tier list looks something like this, the Nick All-Star Brawl tier list, to me anyway, seems to be a bit closer to this. Okay, fine. Reptar may or may not be up there with Toph, but you catch my drift. Every character I pick doesn't seem different enough from any other character to justify any given selection. So now, the only thing left to talk about is those characters. So let's see just what makes any given character special, if anything. First though, it's important to note that during the Smash 64 days, we were missing the over B or the side B option. Well, All-Star Brawl didn't get the memo because this game is missing that attack as well, sadly, despite how new it is. So, let's get rolling. So, I'll go over the individual characters alphabetically since there's not many characters in the game as of the making this video. I waited until Garfield dropped at the very least before I got started, then I procrastinated enough for Shredder to drop. Anyways, so, Aang is going to be first, and for the Avatar, master of all 4 elements, he's not very good, at all. Sure, you can whack people with his glider in various ways, but he mostly forgets he's a bender, and when he does bend the elements, it's mostly air, and not even in useful ways. He has an alarming amount of moves that do nothing, and his moveset frankly blows. He has a gimmick where his fan twirl move turns into a powerful close range attack where he goes into the avatar state for a couple seconds, but then you're incentivized to use that move almost exclusively until you lose your stock, mainly because it goes away once you're at low percentages again. The same issues exist with Terry Bogard in Smash. I'm just not a fan of him or his moveset in the context of this game. I like the show though. Next is April O'Neil from TMNT. And this is an odd addition to the game considering April doesn't have a history of being an action-y fighting type of character in the show, but whatever, here she is. The moveset centers around her career, oddly enough, and just about everything she does has to do with being a reporter. Almost like she doesn't have a personality outside of that, it's weird. Her dialogue is exclusively about that as well, so She is for sure just a reporter bot and not an actual person with independent thoughts and feelings. Her moves mix in microphones, cameras, and even a hot air balloon that the CPU uses to commit suicide on a regular basis with. It's pretty standard and nothing crazy. I think you'll find that she is a very middle-of-the-road character, even for this game's standards. Now, Cat Dog was a fun show when I was a kid, and I enjoyed it, but that's neither here nor there. I've seen where the few people who put together more serious tier lists of the characters in this game put Cat Dog up in S tier. I don't quite understand that, except for Dog's forward smash, which is absolutely massive and also powerful. So much so that it vaults the character into S tier all by itself, I guess. The gimmick here is that you can use your down special to quote-unquote stance change, if you will. This lets you alternate from cat to dog and vice versa, which seems to only change the forward smash to be even worse when you're cat, and the neutral special to have a different trajectory and movement path. That's about it. Everything else seems to be the same. Overall, solid, but not as advertised in my opinion. Yo, Danny Phantom, he was just 14 when he got his powers, but would be roughly 31 years old as of the launch of this game. So, Danny is next, and much like Aang, is another disappointment to both his family and me. On top of looking kinda dumb due to being kinda huge compared to everyone else and floating for some reason. I guess it's just the animation style, they couldn't sort it out, I don't know. He leaves nearly all of his awesome ghost powers at home in favor of the most subpar and generic moveset they can come up with for a person with spectral powers. He has generic teleport, generic projectile, generic charge AoE, but only in his immediate vicinity, obviously. I don't know, man. I'm just not feeling it, and he's just no good. So, we're done here. Next. Now, alphabetically speaking, we're going to talk about Garfield next. Despite being the newest character other than Shredder as of the making of this video, this is where we're at. So, the pros and cons here are that they did a good job of not making him feel like some broken DLC character with unfair gimmicks that most characters don't get. The cons, though, are that he feels roughly identical to the rest of the roster. Great. His pie throw neutral hits multiple times, sometimes, and could drag your opponent to the blast zone if you use it while at a closer range. Nothing else about him is special though. He spikes at the edge like just about everybody else, and is far more energetic and cat-like than he ever is in the comics or his cartoons, but take that for what it is, I guess. Helga G Pataki is next, and she also is about as generic as it gets. I'm sick of saying that, but you're gonna hear it a lot. She's not bad per se in the context of this game, but she is what she is. I forgot all about her neutral special for the footage, but she has like a slingshot that has a reverse knockback when it hits. That's unique, I think. Nobody else has that. She also has a counter, like a very, very basic counter. It seems to have a like capped out base 5% damage on it, unfortunately, and that doesn't scale with anything like damage or anything like that from what I can tell, so that kind of neuters its usefulness, but it's okay for mix-ups, I guess, overall. She's forgettable, though, I think. Korra continues the trend of characters who are powerful fighters and have a cartoon show where fighting is actually what they do. In that regard, I'm saying the Avatar should be a really awesome and versatile character, but she severely limits what she does as a bender, just like Aang. She has no moves that can be counted as a projectile, like at all, somehow, despite her abilities, which sucks because she can projectile literally any of the elements she can bend in reality. So she is now relegated to a close-range brawler. If you took the elemental effects off of any of her moves, it wouldn't change the fact that she's just punching and kicking people at the end of the day. Just an awful moveset. She barely uses like any bending. Again, take the particle effects off of it, what do you have left? Now, we have Leonardo, the token leader of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the appeal here is that his katanas have a lot of range for a melee-only character. He can't really do anything other than slash at you in various ways with his swords, which is simultaneously expected and really disappointing somehow. As a ninja, some sort of stealthy type move, or shuriken or kunai or something would be cool to fit in there somewhere, but they probably just thought that people would be upset that his move slots are being used on something other than simply whacking somebody with a sword. So, ooh, yeah, that's going to be a misstep, I think. Missed opportunity. Again. Damn. So I don't know anything about the Loud House, so for both Lincoln and Lucy Loud, I have no emotional attachment or point of reference to say that they should have had other moves instead of what they have in that regard, so I can judge them objectively within the context of this game for that, so expect that here. So Lincoln's moves are another solid moveset that would probably rank higher than most other characters. His yo-yo makes for a cheap ledge guard that, much like Ness and the rest of his moveset, lends well to that sort of ledge trap type of play, as he has a slightly above average amount of attacks that do that, which is weird. So he's a good character to start with if you want to start and get started with the game and don't know who to pick first, assuming you didn't have any attachment to the characters due to growing up with it. I don't have much more to say about it. He's a kid and he uses squirt guns and kid moves. There you go. And so Lucy Loud, maybe his sister, but they don't have anything in common in terms of vibe of the character. Her moveset is a bit confusing, and I can't seem to get like the grips on things of what's going to happen with her. I can't make things that she can do happen at will. It's weird. Nor do I even know how I made those things happen to begin with sometimes. She has like a vampire bite that gets her some kind of buff, and that probably ties to some of her better attacks. She can go invisible sometimes and do some things while invisible that I can't see. Go figure. And she has like a powerful coffin-based attack that she can do, but since it's difficult for me to like really place, then if you play this game, then go ahead and select Lucy for me and see what you can make happen, and you'll see what I mean. Best advice I can give you. Michelangelo is the funny brother in TMNT that I always jibed with and was my favorite turtle as a kid. Although I think they made him a bit too much of an airhead in modern times, but that's neither here nor there. Mikey has a much more creative moveset than his brother. For starters, he has a projectile. It may be a slice of pizza, but it still does damage, so that counts. He has a weird shell spin that reminds me of like Yoshi's egg roll over B in Smash. And he also has a tether recovery that I've seen the computer use from the lower blast zone and still make it back from, which I cannot do. It looked ridiculous and doesn't work from that far for me, but I've freaking seen it, man. Overall, his nunchuck is a much smaller part of the moveset in favor of elements of his personality, and I can appreciate that, if for no other reason than the diversity that it comes with. Nigel Thornberry is unique. He's unsettling. I don't know. I can go on and on with the adjectives, but they did do a pretty crazy thing with him and go in a pretty crazy direction when designing his moveset. So I wasn't a big fan of the wild Thornberries growing up, but from what I remember, Nigel is crazy about animals. And they exaggerated that so heavily for his moveset that's, I guess, the only thing they could think of to make the guy fight. I would say that's creative, but when you think about it, what else could they have possibly done with it? Really? So, every move he has mimics some animal, and he can be really devastating if you get used to the way he plays. His neutral special is just a traditional roll-in, like in Smash Brothers. Like, you do a roll, which this game doesn't really have, to my knowledge, and that's his neutral special, is a roll. And his down special was compared to Jigglypuff's rest in Smash, but that's assuming it's like way easier to hit. Doesn't have nearly as long of a post-use penalty, and that's probably by design, and didn't apply a damage over time debuff like the flower on the head like Jigglypuff, so yeah, it's nothing like rest in that regard in my opinion. Oblina is a Nickelodeon deep cut. I remember her as one of the three main characters in the old obscure 90s cartoon called Real Monsters. The reason I bring this up is because not everybody will remember that, nor are some folks even old enough to remember that, but I digress. Now, I know I sound like a broken record here, but her moveset is super basic. She has like a wheel bash attack that's cool, I guess, and her projectile, which is a fairly standard, mostly standard projectile, can possibly leave like a little damaging hitbox on the ground for trapping people. It also deals a little bit of knockback so that it can set up some early percent combos, but again, there's nothing to see here, folks. Move along. Now, Patrick Starr is the consensus worst character in the game. He routinely shows up on the bottom tier of any tier list that I've seen. and I don't know if that's 100% deserved for a couple of reasons. I'll start with the fact that every character in the game is more or less the same, but outside of that, it's probably due to his short range and lack of a projectile. Outside of that, I mean, he's fine. He literally has 2 moves where if he gets his stubs on you, you're screwed. One of them will bash you back and forth like the Hulk does to Loki in the first Avengers movie, and that does a ton of damage. The other is a good old-fashioned suicide dive bomb, which kills his opponent first, so you'll always win in the final stock. That's not too bad for a bottom tier if you ask me. Powdered Toastman is a breakfast mascot from Ren and Stimpy, I believe. He is the closest thing to Captain Falcon that I can find because he feels like he's both fast and hits hard. He has a double S tier block animation, and I guess he has Fox's shine move, but I can never find a use for it in this actual game. His neutral special can easily be charged up and comboed upon to stack damage and get some early KOs with that haymaker of his. So, not too bad, and also not too good. I gotta tell you, I'm really sick of saying that, but this game leaves me no other choice. He is just meh, like so many others before him. And after. Speaking of mediocre, though, now we have Ren and Stimpy. Those weird anthropomorphic animal guys with a show that's far too violent and adult for Nickelodeon. That's why they eventually found a new home on Spike TV. But that's neither here nor there. They have another crappy moveset with a generic projectile, a counter, and a bunch of subpar ho-hum humdrum just meh type of attacks that don't stand out too much from anyone else. The draw here, I guess, is that they use each other as actual weapons to attack? Great. So cool. Okay, who's next? And now we got Reptar, one of the better characters in the game, actually. He's probably the only character you can consider a heavy in the game, due to how hard he hits and how limited he is with his mobility. But just like Smash, this Rugrats cereal mascot is almost as easy to actually knock away as just about anybody else in the game. He has a lot of attacks that are absurdly good at AoE and are based around his fire breath, so the moves are generally chargeable and also they come with a hefty amount of both damage and knockback. Pretty intense stuff compared with, the really underwhelming characters that don't have much going for them, like, Sandy Cheeks of SpongeBob fame. They really did her dirty, I feel, because if you watched any episode of SpongeBob that has her in it, there is a good chance she is whooping somebody's ass or just generally being exponentially better than everyone else around her, both physically and intellectually. In this game, however, she was given very little. Much like other badasses who were done dirty, Sandy feels neither strong or fun to play as. Her down special is essentially a waste of a move, and her lasso move is the only thing that she has that has some semblance of uniqueness or individuality. Big missed opportunity here, sadly. Now, Shredder, on the other hand, feels like he could defeat all of the Ninja Turtles and that they should be afraid. His moves are so hilariously displacing that he feels broken at times. You see me trying to get this combo up, which I'll succeed at here in a moment, but you see me trying to get this off, and you can pretty much kill someone from zero with it. You use his neutral special, then you use his up smash, which it usually combos into most of the time, and then, if you can get the positioning just right, finish them off with an up special off the top. You can do that from zero reasonably, and like I said, as long as you get all that just right, you can do it. It's not the easiest thing to do, but should probably cement Shredder as one of the better characters in the game, just all on its own. So, Spongebob Squarepants. Alphabetically speaking, this is where he's at, but we should have covered him first. Like Mario before him, he takes his rightful role as the poster child for this game and Nickelodeon as a whole. I mean, who else? Seriously. So his moveset, like Mario before him, is supposed to be the most average, most neutral, most beginner-friendly moveset in the game. And they introduce just about everything that the game's general mechanics do in his moveset in some capacity. He's got juggles, he's got spikes, he's got a generic projectile, and he's got an average recovery, the whole nine. I'm not 100% sure, obviously, but I think he might have been the first character they made when they sat down to start to work on this game. Seems reasonable, nothing really to complain about, and he's exactly what he's supposed to be, just super middle of the road, as if most people aren't. On to the next, though. Toph Beifong of the Earthbenders, is, in my personal opinion, one of the best characters in the game. They designed her better than everyone else, I think, and they gave her more love. Don't know why. She's far better than either of the avatars, and let me tell you why. She has these huge, powerful, rangy hitboxes she throws out, and isn't even bad in the air like Little Mac. I mean, I feel like that was kind of what they were going for, but she isn't. That, to me, makes her unbalanced, and one of this game's true top tiers. She's got spikes without leaving the stage. She's a hell of a lot of oomph to her attacks, and seems like a general upgrade to Reptar. If I cared more about this game, I'd say she is my main, to be sure. Okay, finally, we're down to Zim, one of my favorite cartoons growing up, Invader Zim. He has got to be the last alphabetically, right? I mean, there's no more, right? Is there any more? Alright, there's no more. I don't think. Yeah, anyway, I should have recorded straight footage of the computer doing stuff, because they are a lot better with him than I am. He likes to use Gur and his laser lawn gnomes as projectiles to bring his moveset together, and he does just that. Controlled by me, he's pretty meh, as are so many others, but if you see Zim play at the highest levels, it seems like he can do unbelievable, unprecedented amounts of damage to you with said projectiles. For some reason, they don't seem to hurt people so much when I use them, but clearly I'm doing something wrong. Pick him up if you want to try to unlock his potential like the high-level CPU can. Alright, and that about wraps up all the characters. Nothing much else to say here. I hope I didn't miss anybody. Really super meh, though, all the way around. And other than the fact that I was super busy these past few months, and I think making a video on this game has been a chore, I chose to do this one next. So it had to be done, but damn, I didn't have the best time, I'll be honest on this one. The only other things to go over in this video are really just the only other real game mode that they put in this game, lovingly named Sports. That is super vague, and I had no idea what it was going into it. I thought maybe it was just like several sports type like modes put into one, but no, it's just one thing. It turns out it's more or less some kind of football/soccer type game mixed with basketball and UFC/MMA, using the game's physics. That's about it. It's not that exciting and can feel like a mobile game at times. I have little else to say here that I haven't already. I don't necessarily recommend this game, despite being a huge fan of the genre. I'll wait and see if they can spawn a sequel and build upon this, and, bring it up to par before I truly dive back in. No wonder Nintendo licensed the game on Switch. They were not afraid at all at the competition for Smash, and I see why. You come at the king, you best not miss. So there we have it, folks. Nicky Dicky Superstar Smash 'em Up is a game that is for people who either love Nickelodeon a lot or people who can't afford Super Smash Bros. That's really all it breaks down to. This game's kind of a chore to go back to. They're doing everything that's in the Smash Brothers competitive scene that they thought would be an amazing thing to do and would all come together. Things that people love about it, the wave dashing and the can face one single direction off of like a strafe, like stuff like that. There's various things. People love to spike people in Smash Brothers, so they put it on every freaking move, including people who don't even have to leave the stage to do it. Like, they really wanted to pound home as much as they could in getting this done, and it's just got a lot of jank. The animations are more difficult to read, the hitboxes are absolutely massive, and at the highest levels, anybody who loses, whether it be the human player or even if the human player beats a computer, it doesn't feel quite earned. You just feel like you're like, oh, well, that was kind of weird. Like, you don't feel like anybody who dies in this game should have at the time that they did. Super early kills, all that. Not here to complain about that stuff, just saying that this would have been considered a finished game 22 years ago. And it is 2022, so I guess what I'm saying is back when, around the time Melee came out, this would have been able to possibly compete with that. But it's too little too late. They're doing good things like the free updates to add characters, not making you pay for the DLC for those characters. They're making it not a full-priced game, whatever they can to get on your good side with it, knowing that they have a lack of content and that there's nothing to do. So with that, I have to give the game only a 2 out of 5. Sorry, guys. Either way, I would like to thank you for staying so sexy on the line. And you guys have a good one.